They were rappers on the rise. Some made one bad call, others made several, and a few did everything right and still didn't survive. Let's start with the deaths nobody could have stopped, and work our way toward the most shocking ones that never had to happen at all. Number 7. Jimi Patterson. On the evening of August 14, 2017, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, James Patterson, a 22-year-old rapper who went by Jimi, was sitting on a couch inside someone else's apartment eating. He had no connection to anything happening around him that night. A man named Israel Trejo showed up at the apartment intending to sell an axe to someone inside. Patterson was not part of that transaction. The two men had never met. They never exchanged a single word. Trejo stayed inside for a few minutes. He held the axe. Then, without any warning or apparent reason, he swung it directly at Patterson's head while Patterson sat relaxed on the couch. Trejo ran immediately. Patterson was transported to a nearby hospital with the axe still embedded in his skull. Surgeons worked to save him for 3 days. He died on August 17th. Trejo was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. The axe was recovered. The sale it was brought for never happened. Patterson wasn't involved in anything that night. He was just eating. That's all it took. Number 6. DJ Scott LaRock. August 27, 1987. The Bronx, New York. Scott Monroe Sterling was 25 years old. He worked as a social worker, DJ'd on the side, and had co-founded Boogie Down Productions. Just weeks before that night, the group dropped Criminal Minded, an album already making waves across New York. Earlier in the day, his group mate D Nice had been jumped by a group of men over an argument involving someone's ex-girlfriend. Scott stepped in and helped calm things down. It should have ended there. It didn't. That same evening, Scott went back to the Highbridge projects with D Nice and a few others. No security, no weapons. No reason to think the situation had escalated beyond what it was. As their Jeep pulled away from the building, someone fired into the vehicle. Bullets punched through the door and roof. Scott hit his head against the dashboard and lost consciousness. He wasn't aware he'd been struck in the back of the head. He was rushed to Lincoln Hospital still breathing, still conscious enough to tell doctors he felt cold. Then, he slipped into a coma. He was declared brain dead days later. His mother made the decision to remove life support. 2 men were arrested. Both were acquitted. Hip-hop's first major death wasn't the result of a beef, a deal gone wrong, or a rivalry. It was over someone's ex-girlfriend. A detail so small, nobody even remembered her name. Number 5. Takeoff. November 1st, 2022. Houston, Texas. Kirsnick Kari Ball, known as Takeoff, had spent the hours after midnight at 810 Billiards and Bowling following a private event on the 3rd floor. He was there with his uncle and fellow Migos member Quavo. As the night ended and people moved toward the exit, a group of around 40 gathered outside. A dice game started. Voices got loud. Then money got involved. Takeoff was not in the game. He wasn't arguing with anyone. He wasn't armed. He stood nearby while others talked. Shots were fired into the crowd. Takeoff was hit multiple times, in the head and torso. He collapsed and did not get up. A nurse who happened to be present ran over immediately. There was nothing she could do. 2 others were wounded and taken away in private cars. Police arrived nearly 2 hours later and ruled it a homicide. Investigators later concluded that Takeoff was almost certainly not the intended target. He was hit by a stray bullet. Patrick Xavier Clark was later arrested, charged with murder, and released on $1 million bond. A grand jury indicted him. He faces life in prison. Takeoff had released a joint album with Quavo just days before he died. He built 4 albums with Migos. He died over a dice game he had nothing to do with. Number 4. Magnolia Shorty. December 20th, 2010. New Orleans East. Renetta Lowe Bridgewater, known as Magnolia Shorty, was one of the most recognizable women in New Orleans rap. She had been among the first female artists signed to Cash Money Records, released the bounce anthem Monkey on the Diva, and had spent years working alongside the label's biggest names. People called her the Queen of Bounce. That day, she had come back to her apartment complex briefly to pick up something she'd forgotten before leaving for Miami. She was booked to perform at a bounce festival later that evening. As she drove through the gated entrance of her building, a second vehicle followed her through the gate. The car circled her, cut in front, and blocked her in. 2 men stepped out. No demands were made. They went straight to shooting, firing through the windows repeatedly. Magnolia Shorty was hit 26 times. A man in the vehicle with her, Jerome Hampton, was also killed. Police described it as a close-range drive-by carried out with precision. She died inside her own car, inside the gates of her own home. A federal investigation in 2014 tied the killing to gang activity. Multiple defendants were convicted by 2017, including 2 specifically for her murder. She was on her way to perform. She made it as far as her driveway. Number 3. Pop Smoke. February 19, 2020. Hollywood Hills, California. Bashar Baraka Jackson, Pop Smoke, was 20 years old and staying at an Airbnb in Los Angeles while his debut project was gaining serious national attention. The house was rented through an app. He was visiting from New York. The night before he died, he posted to Instagram gift bags, a Rolex, jewelry spread across a table, and one image that showed a shipping label clearly displaying the house address. The post was public and stayed up. At around 4:30 in the morning, 5 hooded men climbed onto a second-story balcony and forced their way inside. One of them carried a handgun. They moved from room to room until they found Jackson and opened fire. He was shot multiple times. The men left immediately afterward. The first call to the LAPD came not from inside the house, but from someone on the East Coast who had been alerted. Officers arrived and found Jackson wounded. He was rushed to Cedars-Sinai. Emergency surgery failed to save him. He died hours later from a gunshot wound to the chest. Police initially suspected gang involvement. That theory shifted. Investigators eventually concluded it was a robbery, one that began the moment someone saw that address posted online. The attackers took his Rolex and some jewelry. The watch was later sold for around $2,000. One of the juveniles involved later admitted in a recorded statement that the target was identified through social media. In February 2025, one defendant received a 29-year sentence. Others took plea deals. After his death, his albums climbed the charts. He wasn't there to see any of it. All it took was one photo. Number 2. Mohbad. September 12, 2023. Lagos, Nigeria. Ilerioluwa Oladimeji Aloba, known as Mohbad, was 27 years old and one of Nigeria's fastest-rising Afrobeats voices. 2 days before he died, after a show in Ikorodu, he got into a physical altercation with his childhood friend and fellow artist, Primeboy. Mohbad threw a punch. He missed. His fist connected with a car window instead, and the glass tore open his hand. He didn't go to a hospital. The wound was left untreated. Over the following 48 hours, his hand swelled badly, and the pain became severe enough that someone called for help. But instead of taking him to a medical facility, a nursing assistant named Fayesayo Ojedengbe came to the house. She was not a licensed nurse. She administered 3 injections, including what was believed to be a tetanus shot and pain medication. Within minutes, Mohbad's body reacted violently. He began vomiting, then convulsing, then seizing. By the time he reached a hospital, it was over. He was pronounced dead in the early hours of September 12th. Police confirmed Ojedengbe was not authorized to give injections. She was arrested. Primeboy was arrested. A third individual who had invited the nurse to the house was detained on suspicion of conspiracy. Mohbad was buried the following day. The country erupted. Protests under the hashtag Justice for Mohbad spread across Nigeria. His former label, Marley and Music, faced intense public scrutiny. Figures including Naira Marley and Sam Larry were named repeatedly by fans demanding answers. A formal coroner's inquest was opened. The condition of the body after burial complicated the findings. He missed a punch. He cut his hand. He trusted the wrong person. Any one of those 3 things handled differently, and he would still be alive. Number 1. Prodigy. June 20th, 2017, Las Vegas, Nevada. Albert Johnson. Prodigy was 42 years old and one half of Mobb Deep. Alongside Havoc, he helped build the sound of East Coast gangsta rap in the 1990s. Shook One's Part 2, Quiet Storm, albums that were studied and memorized by an entire generation. From the day he was born, Prodigy lived with sickle cell anemia, a disease that deforms red blood cells and causes cycles of severe pain, weakness, and organ damage. Heat makes it worse. He had spent years managing hospitalizations, crises, and episodes that would have ended most people. That evening, he performed at an outdoor hip-hop festival in Las Vegas. The temperature was high. Shortly after coming off stage, his body gave out. He was admitted to a Las Vegas hospital for a sickle cell complication, something that had happened before. He was conscious. He was talking. It seemed like another episode he would get through. But while lying in that hospital bed recovering, Prodigy was eating eggs. His body was weakened. His reflexes were slow. No one was watching closely enough. A piece of egg became lodged in his throat. Doctors and nurses responded. They couldn't clear it in time. Oxygen was cut off to his brain. Prodigy died in a hospital under medical supervision from choking on his breakfast. He survived decades of one of the most painful chronic illnesses a person can live with. He survived the streets. He survived the music industry. He didn't survive eggs.